Today's event is meant to identify, recognize, and motivate corporates to drive to the highest sustainability standards implemented in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, UNSDGs, for societies and nature for our upcoming generations. To commence with the forum part of this ceremony, may I invite Mr. Matthew Friedman to say a few words on what it means to be a forward-looking in a fast-paced world. As the founder and CEO of the Mekong Club, Matthew is a global expert on modern slavery and human trafficking. An award-winning filmmaker, author, and philanthropist, Matthew utilizes his expertise for maximum reach across the globe. In his humanitarian work, millions of people have benefited by the World Bank, the U.S. State Department, and the United Nations, inspiring people with his wonderful speeches and as a messenger of hope. Matthew, please.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for this opportunity to be here today. You know, I attend a lot of events where we're talking about kind of the issues and the problems. What's really nice about an awards event is we're celebrating people coming forward, having taken initiative to really address an important issue of our time. So what I'm going to do just in the next couple of minutes is talk about SDGs and a training and a tool that we're working with corporates on. First slide. Next slide. So my particular organization works with the topic of human trafficking and modern slavery. This happens to be SDG 87. What we do is we work with companies to help them to understand the issue and to address it so they don't have issues and problems in their supply chains or in their networks. Next slide. Next slide. One of the things that we have seen over time is that the number of people in modern slavery is 40 million people. But last year, with everybody working together, we were only able to help about 100,000 of them. Next slide. Out of 500,000 criminals, we were only able to put 8,000 of them in jail. Next slide. The reason I'm telling you this is many of the issues of our time are huge. They're global. They have many aspects. And in order for us to really make a difference, we have to go beyond the governments. We have to go beyond basically the NGOs. We have to go beyond to include the corporations in what we do. What I've learned through the last 25 years working on human trafficking and other things is, and this has been repeated as well, the world needs our help. So what you see here is you see pollution, you see kind of hunger, you see fresh water, wars, various other things. Next. Each of these has numbers associated with it. 5.5 million people die from pollution. Close to 800 million people have lack of fresh water or food. 130 million people, basically girls aren't able to go to education. Next. So we're basically failing on many of these things. That's why it's so important to have corporations stepping up and getting involved in this. Because if it was just left to kind of the governments to do it, it's not enough. At the community level, since COVID has hit, we see all kinds of challenges related to dealing with elderly, animals, drug abuse, education, and so forth. The point is that for us to really heal the world, in order to make the world a better place, we need all of us to step up. Next slide. So one of the things that we have been doing is we've been asked as an organization to develop a volunteer training program within corporations to help individuals who work for corporations to play a part. It's not just the company doing it. These individuals want to know what to do. And we called it the Be the Hero, Be the Change training, because what we're saying to employees is that if you step up, if you get involved, if you basically participate in addressing the SDGs, and you can do that, you are heroic. You are adding value to making the world a better place. Next slide. So as part of this training, one of the things we do is we go to the employees and we get them to identify what their issue is. What makes your heart sing? What makes you get excited? What is the issue that you want to address? Next slide. The second thing we do is just to help them to understand that as human beings, we are all responsible for this earth. we breathe the air, we drink the water, we use the facilities. We have to accept a little bit of responsibility, even if it's a small amount. Next. The next thing we try to do is to get people to surrender, to stop listening to those voices in their mind that say, I'm too busy to help. Or what do I have to offer? What if I try doing this and I don't like it? Those voices are often the things that turn off our desire to get involved and help. Next slide. And the last thing we do is we help them to just do things. And when it comes to helping with SDGs, sometimes we feel like we have to do grandiose things. We have to commit a tremendous amount of time. It doesn't have to be that way. If you learn about something and then go teach other people, you've contributed. If you volunteer, even from home, to work with an NGO, you've contributed. If you recycle, if you turn off lights, if you donate, if you provide fundraising support, you've contributed. So all of these things are heroic. All of these things add up. All of these things add value. And if we had 10 million people doing this, imagine how many additional gestures of goodwill would add to the SDGs that we're talking about. Next one. So as part of this program, we're in the process of finalizing the development of an app. The way the app works is the landing page gives you short videos so that you can look at some of the issues of our time. It's about 10 short videos. Next slide. Then what you do is you get an interface that has the 17 SDGs on there. And so let's say that you do something, you've learned about something, and it's related to poverty. You press the poverty button. Next slide. And what it does is it leads you to this action board that looks at learning and sharing, and all of these things are things that you can do as an individual to contribute to addressing the issues of our time. Next one. From here, it asks you how many hours you put in, a little bit about what you did and the date that it happened, and as a result of this, next, then you get what are called CarePoints. Every hour you work, you get a CarePoint. So maybe you did it with this SDG and another SDG. What it does is it allows a person to validate and to measure their contributions. And by doing this, it encourages them, kind of like Facebook likes. People basically go on Facebook and try to get people to like it because they need that validation. They want that validation. They want to be able to measure something. Next. So what this will allow you also to do is to have a target of SDG CarePoints. How many do you want? Do you want it set up for 100? Do you want to set it for 10? It really doesn't matter, but you set your own goals. Next. And then you can compare your goals with others within the organization. Next. Now, the reason why we're doing this is that a lot of goodwill, whether it's the SDG work that the governments are doing or corporates are doing through corporate social responsibility or ESG, is tracked, but not on the individual basis. So organizations that we work with basically are approaching us and saying, our people say they feel a certain emptiness, they want to do something, they want to get involved, train us so that we can do this, and then let's measure it, and then use that as part of our reporting for sustainability, CSR, and ESG. Next. As part of this, a couple of schools came to us and said, wow, wouldn't it be great if CarePoints could be standardized? So instead of students writing, I did this volunteer activity, this, you could just standardize the CarePoints, and that would be what would be submitted. Or a couple of companies said, well, why not use this like frequent flyer miles, whereby as you generate a certain amount of points, we'll give you a t-shirt or we'll give you a cup of coffee. So it becomes kind of like care currency. The idea is to develop a community, no one owns this, that basically will manage the process like Wikipedia and use this as a means of being able to really add value to our contribute to the world. Next. So what this is a sand dune in Africa. It's the size of a pyramid, and the reason why I'm using this as a metaphor, it's made up of tiny little pieces of sand, but billions of it. What it demonstrates is that if you have small things done in large numbers, it adds up to something big. So once again, if you could get 10 million people to use an app like this from corporations, from your employees, and that basically contributed to 10 million or 20 million or 50 million small, compassionate, heroic gestures, imagine where we would be. Because once again, many of the issues of our time, we are behind. We're less than 5% impact because the governments, the United Nations, the NGOs by themselves can't do it. They need the corporations. You guys have demonstrated that you've stepped up and you're getting involved in this. You should be honored as heroes for that. Thank you very much.